This chapter is about waiting. So this is what we decided to talk about this evening is about waiting for something good. Uh, so this is a theme which we thought was appropriate when we have a series about Emunah, about belief in difficult times. A central motive of belief in Judaism has to do very much about the belief in Mashiach, in the coming of Mashiach, a belief in messianic times. And I must say, I'm going through also myself, as also Meir's, no doubt, and everybody living here and everybody who is with us around the Jewish world. Very, very, a very tough time now, and maybe in many ways the most difficult times with both the children, for my sake, both children and grandchildren, as also our Meir has in Gaza, and we have people fighting and people who are we're going to funerals and to shiva visits. We have here in our neighborhood this week we have a commemoration of 5 young soldiers who have died from our small neighborhood here in Talpiot in Jerusalem. We're having an event here on after Shabbat, and I've been working the whole day today on release of some of our hostages, and tomorrow are coming mothers of soldiers who have been now for 138 days hostages, and I think that nobody can figure how that feeling is of it's every second a nightmare to think that your son or daughter or husband or child or parent is sitting there and you don't know if they're alive or dead or and just to and you don't know if they have any food or if and it is just a constant nightmare. And this, besides from the whole situation we are in, and the feeling is that we want to scream out that this is really enough of suffering, and we need the Mashiach to come now, and that things should turn around, and so we thought that this would be an appropriate theme to talk about, and to talk about what the relation is. In some sources, we can't give the full scope of sources in the hour we have, but we can give some kind of ideas and thoughts. And I want to start off, and Rav Meir will continue, and then we'll see a little backwards and forwards. I want to start off with a kind of say double something which is difficult, always been difficult for me to grasp on one hand. on one hand, there is a very, very strong, in every single Jewish source, the belief of Mashiach, coming of Mashiach is very central amongst all our authorities. And as the Rambam says very clearly in Hilchot Melachim, that somebody who doesn't believe Kol mi she'eino ma'amin bo, everybody who doesn't believe in the coming of Mashiach, or mi she'eino mechake lebiyoto, and somebody who doesn't wait for his coming, lo b'shar hanaviim hu kofer. He doesn't. He's not just kofer. No, what's that? He's not just denies or the existence of all the prophets. No, he denies the belief of the whole of the Torah and of Moshe Rabbeinu, and then he brings the different verses in the Torah which have the centrality of the belief in the Mashiach. And so this is, in one hand, that it's a very strongly, and this is, I think, in agreement with all of the major thinkers and authorities in Judaism. On the other hand, and this is, it's not the other hand, but there is a danger also in this, and that is something which is also written in the Talmud, and the Rambam also brings it down, that we cannot and should not be mechashvei kitzin. Question is what that exactly means. We should not it even curses. Somebody said that they should die. People who say exactly, usually we explain it, somebody who says exactly when the Mashiach will come, or how exactly that when if you say exactly when the Mashiach will come, then takerucha, then that is not acceptable. And the Rambam himself explains why that is so. He does this in a letter which is called Igeret Teiman, where he explains why that is so. And he says that that if you say Mashiach will come next Pesach, and Mashiach doesn't come next Pesach, then people will start to despair, and they will stop to believe that we will have the Messianic times with everything which comes with it, which I hope we can come to in a little while, what that means exactly. But if you say exactly when Mashiach will come and it doesn't happen, then people will despair. It will nothing good comes out of saying that. And therefore, you shouldn't say exactly that. This is on one hand. On the other hand, there is a feeling that we are closer to the times. And the Ramban, the Nachmanides, he disagrees a little with the Rambam on this. And he says in the Sefer Geulah, he says, well, when that was for former generations, that you shouldn't work out you shouldn't say exactly when the Mashiach comes. But now you can say. Why? Because now we're getting close to the time of the Messianic times. And I heard a story, just a parable about this, that this is from this generation. As somebody driving with his son to a faraway village, and his son is nagging the whole time, when are we getting there? When are we getting there? And so on. And the father says, stop nagging the whole time, when we're getting there, when we're getting there. When we get there, we'll know that we're there. And so eventually, when they were close to getting to the village, then the father stops the car and asks somebody on the street, when are we getting to the village? Where exactly is the village? And the person answers. The son says, you kept on telling me that you can't ask, when are we getting there? When are we getting there? Where are we? This. And now you did it yourself. Well, what is this? What is this? Ah, says the father. That was when we were far away from getting to the village. But now, when we're just getting into the village, we're just about getting there. Now we need to know exactly how we get into the village. We need to prepare ourselves for getting into the village and doing what is right to getting into the village. Now we can ask. Now we need to ask, because now it's a new time and we need to ask in order to prepare ourselves to get into the village. So this is, I would say, the way we can explain the difference between the Ramban and the Rambam, Nachmanides and Maimonides, that Nachmanides sees, now we're getting there, although they lived more or less the same time, a long time ago. But there is something in our times. We live, as Elie Wiesel said, he said, we're living in biblical times. So much is happening so fast. It's things are being turned around in the world in such a speed, in such a speed that something says okay here. I think I should say okay. Things are happening in such a speed that we have a feeling, we have a strong feeling that that we're getting there, and therefore we have to prepare ourselves and so on. It still doesn't mean that you say exactly when is the time now, or when is or so on exactly, but it means that you have a feeling that we really need the help of God in this time, and there are many things going on in the world, and we need things to turn around in a good way for the sake of the future of the world. So I think that this is part of how we can explain the difference here between the different opinions. So I wanted to start off with this. I will let Rav Meir take over, and then maybe I will then continue with different things afterwards. Rav Meir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your words. When I started to think about different sources about Mashiach, Messiah, there's so much, but I wanted to start with the following. In the Talmud, we hear a surprising opinion. There is a Talmud teacher called Hillel II. There is the famous Hillel, we call him Hillel HaZaken. He lived during the second temple, but this Hillel lived much later. And he said the following. He said, there will be no messiahs. There's no messiahs coming, because he came in the days of Chizkiyahu HaMelech. There was a king, a wonderful king called Chizkiyahu. That was Mashiach. Now, I don't want to get into what he really meant or what he didn't mean, but I want to show you the reaction of another rabbi that overheard this. It's interesting. This Hillel said that there will be no Mashiach. We are after that. There won't be such a thing. And then there is a rabbi called Rav Yosef. We are round about 300 years after the beginning of the Common Era. Rav Yosef, he says, I will give you the expression in Aramaic. He says, Shara leimare, may his master forgive him for saying this. His master is God. May God forgive him for saying this. Now, this expression is found in other places as a very strong expression. It's usually said as a reaction to something that shouldn't be said. May your master forgive you for this. And I would like to ask, together with you, why does he, and I think we with him, react in that way? Why can't we accept an opinion saying there won't be any Mashiach? And I think the answer is because there is no Judaism without the hope for better days of peace in the world, without oppression, violence, and so on, as the prophets have said again and again in wonderful verses and chapters of what will be in the Messianic days. We can't do without it. We are not able to breathe without this hope. We have a built-in optimism. Why? I think because we believe in the Creator, who stressed in the very creation every day that He created something new. V'hinei tov. This is good. And on the sixth day said, this is very good. That is, God Himself tells us that this creation is good. It has an ability to be good. We can't say that it will go and get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. That's not the direction. The direction must be that that will come true, that this creation is good. And our prophets, mainly our prophets, they speak about this coming time called the days of Mashiach. But okay, so then we can say, okay, but what kind of people, what kind of persons are they that they believe in the Mashiach? Who are we? Is it a hysterical sect, like, for example, Shabtai Tzvi in the 17th century? Is that the type of the one who says he believes in Mashiach? And I don't think so. I would like to show you that it's a usual man or woman that should have a belief in a time of peace and so on. And how will I show it to you? Another Talmud teacher called Rava, he says on one place, he tells us that when a person is brought to judgment after he has passed away, sort of entering the coming world, he will be asked a few questions. about his conduct in the world that he was in during his life. And these are the following questions. The first question is, did you conduct with selling and buying and so on faithfully? When you buy and sell and promise and so on, did you do it honestly? Did you do it in a straight way? That's the first question. The second question is, did you designate times for Torah study? Did you put times to study Torah? Okay. The next one, did you engage in having a family and children during your life? And the next one is, did you await salvation? That is the times of Mashiach. Did you await? The Hebrew term is tzipita liyeshua. Okay. And then the last question is, did you engage in the wisdom of the Torah in a deep way or something like that? Now, Rashi says, what is tzipita liyeshua? He commentates these questions, and he says, it's waiting for the days of Mashiach in the way that the prophets told us. And that's interesting. I asked you a few minutes ago whether the person, the man or woman that waits for Mashiach, if he is and sort of not a normal person, that he's a person belonging to a sect or something. No. We can see from these questions that this is a complete usual person who sells and buys, is engaged in society, and he's asked whether he did this honestly. He has a family, has children. He works, of course, since he was asked whether he has designated time. He has put some time in the morning or in the evening before or after work. This very usual man that I love very much, a woman, he or she will be asked, did you await salvation? Did you await the days of Mashiach in the way that our prophets told us? And here we can see that it should be a part of our life, part of our way of living. And we can also understand that it's not being a person that doesn't have a responsibility. He does have responsibility. He works. He has a family. And so on and so on. This is the person that we think is the ideal one. And he, within the normal way of thinking and planning and living, he should have his tzipita liyeshua. Did you await the days of Mashiach? And I remember that I once heard, and I think I found it also, that one of the rabbis in the medieval ages, he added one word to this, did you await the days of Mashiach? And he said, biyamecha, in your days. Because someone could say, I await Mashiach and far away. No. We should be able to understand that it might happen that we will come to the point where the world will come to a place that we could sort of rest from wars and rest from all kinds of things. The Rambam says, according to the Talmud, that the days of Mashiach are not days that are unnatural. These are days where people will work. It's just like a normal life, but without wars. A time of shalom, a time of where people are honoring one the other and so on, according to the prophets. That was my second point. If you're getting tired of me, tell me, I'll stop. The third one is, I think Rabbi Michael touched this point, speaking about our days today here, where we are in the very delicate situation, if I could say it in a kind of understatement, that we have now in these days. And I would like to broaden this, speaking about these days, and that is, I don't think we can speak about us being here in Israel, the whole Jewish people. It doesn't matter if you live in Scandinavia, but we, the Jewish people, something has changed concerning these people. Something happened the last 100 years, or like Michael said in the name of Eli Wiesel, Zichrono Livracha. These are and were so special days. If I go somewhere here in Israel to speak to a group, sometimes I have done the following. I've asked everyone to say from where was his mother or father born? Where was his grandfather or grandmother born? And the vast majority, they weren't born here in Israel. They were born all over, everywhere. And it's being blind not to see this. What grade of it being messianic times and so on, it doesn't really interest me, but that something has happened in the direction of some times that could be called messianic times. We have for sure no shalom yet, and we have all kinds of things that we hope will change by us as far as we can, or by some future times. But something happened, and this we should also pay attention to. There is a discussion in the Talmud where they speak about when can we see kind of the end of Galut, the end. They speak about the end, Kates. When does this Kates, which means the end? And there's a wonderful saying by one of the rabbis. They say, he quotes a verse in the Bible, and he says, the most explicit end, the clear end of Galut is, you mountains of Israel, you shall give your branches and yield your fruit to my people of Israel. That is what it starts to grow here. And there will be fruits, and there will be fields that people are working. That is the time when it's a kind of the end of the Galut. And as I said before, I don't want to get into discussion of really what, but something has happened. That Rashi says when Eretz Yisrael will give its fruits generously, then the end of Galut, and there is no more clear sign than that. We shouldn't deal with signs too much. That is what Rav Michael said in the beginning, to try to understand when and how. When it happens, it will happen. But at the same time, we have to open up our eyes to see what has happened around us, and perhaps saying that we are on our way. Rambam, in the place where Rabbi Michael quoted, he speaks about one of the signs of the Mashiach is the Jewish people coming together in its country, and that we shouldn't sort of close our eyes. We should see that really.
I can maybe add to that point.
Yeah, I had one more point, but please.
No, just adding to that exact point about the Jews coming back. and the Rambam, and everybody mentions this. Not only in the Rambam,
Prophet.
we say it in our everyday prayer, where we have all the different parts of the different points of what should happen for Messianic times, and getting together from all over the world is one of the brachot in our everyday prayer. And actually the Talmud says that the order of things, the Rambam says we don't know. He gives an order, but he says we don't know which order it will be. What will be will be. When it happens, we'll know what the order will have been. We don't know. But the Talmud at one point says that the order will be according to what the brachot are in our everyday prayer, which we say 3 times a day. And there we have first the kibbutz galuyot. We have first that people should come back again to the land. And it's interesting there that the verse from Yeshayahu, where we read from the prophet Isaiah, where we read about the Messianic times and kibbutz galuyot, we read there that the miracle of coming back to the land is bigger than the miracle of the Exodus from Egypt. And why is it bigger? Because there will be people coming from Kush, which usually we say today is Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Jews will come back, and also from Iyei Hayam. Now, Iyei Hayam means the islands, transatlantic islands. Now, the question is what that is exactly. It can be North America or Canada, or and Latin America, Australia, whatever you want. We have Jews coming from all over, from all the islands of the sea, which for sure are all further away than when we came out of Egypt, where we all were together. And therefore, this is a far bigger miracle that people are coming back, and that we today are on the verge of having more than 50% of all the Jews in the world, which has also all kinds of consequences halachically. We have more than 50% of the Jews in the world now gathered in Israel. So I just wanted to add, when you talk about this, the signs of what has happened already, then this has happened already. Sorry, I just wanted to.
No. I'm towards the end of my words. There is a big discussion whether the days of Messiahs are dependent upon our ways of behaving. There are those who said, if we behave well, then Messiahs will come. If we don't behave well, he won't come. But the others say, no, it doesn't. It's not dependent upon your way of behaving. And that's a discussion. And I have a feeling that the second one might be right, that it doesn't really depend upon our way of behaving. But I would like to say, of course, that if we, in the ways of Messiahs, try to be people of the times of Messiahs, which is a time of peace and an honest way of being a good person and so on, and have a society that is a good society. We should work for all that. Then we for sure will be worthy for the times of Mashiach. It might be it doesn't depend upon our ways of behaving, but I think we should try to be people of the days of Messiahs and try to do the best out of our reality, out of our society, and so on. Perhaps that will also help something. And I would like to end with a verse. I don't have an English translation here now. That we say every Shabbat in Tehillim. We ask God and say, Samcheinu kimot initanu. Make us happy, just as there were days where you did sort of the opposite. You made us feeling bad. So in a way, perhaps we say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we are worthy to have days of happiness and peace because we had sort of enough of what was so negative. So the negative days should be turned into days of happiness. Samcheinu kimot initanu shnot ra'inu ra'a. Days when we saw very evil things. There were times where we saw evil things and during all kinds of times that you all know. So we are allowed to turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and said what Michal actually said in the beginning, sort of enough. That is, we had those days, now we should have days of happiness and so on. And Yirtzeh Hashem, we hopefully it will be like that.
I'll maybe continue on the point of being worthy to a Mashiach and what we can do to have Messianic times. The Chafetz Chaim says that part of it, besides from acting, how we act and how we act in our lives and how we behave and how we do mitzvot, Chafetz Chaim puts it on at one place where he writes a lot about bringing Mashiach, and he writes that you should have a kind of feeling. This is also connected to the feeling that we're close to Messianic times. You should have a kind of feeling like the feeling we have when we go to the Ne'ilah prayer on Yom Kippur, that when everybody feels, even if you don't feel something the whole year, when you pray every day and so on, we pray on Shabbat, on Chag, and so on, even when you pray on Yom Kippur, when you come to Ne'ilah, the last hour, this is like, okay, now at least you feel that this is like the last chance. This is the last chance to open the heaven, to that you have the last chance to do tshuva, to open your heart, to pour out your heart, to really, really concentrate on the prayer and really now it's as if everything is on the scale, and you can make this difference, and for your life and maybe for the community's life and maybe for the whole world. Now is the chance. And he says, this feeling which you have on Ne'ilah, this is what you should have when you're preparing now for the coming of Mashiach, this is how we should act. In the heavens, there are thousands of forces which are for the Mashiach should be now, and there are thousands of forces which say no, the Mashiach should not come now. Every generation that has the potential of having the Mashiach to come now in this generation, and it's for and against the whole time, and you can make the difference. You, every single person, you can make the difference. Just do the right thing now. Have this feeling that if you now make the right act, if you do an act of if you become a tzaddik, if you do an act of loving kindness towards another fellow human being, if you invite the person, if you do tzedakah, if you keep an extra Shabbat, if you do what you should be doing, but do it with sincerity, study an extra piece of Torah, invite some more people to join the Nordic Bet Midrash. What you can do for adding this to become a better world, a more just world, to stop suffering in the world, to heal people, then the forces in heaven that God will want to have Mashiach then come. It's not, Mashiach will not, again, according to the Rambam, the changes in the world, again, there are different opinions about that, but the Rambam is very clear that the changes in the world will not be so dramatic. The place of Israel amongst the nations will be honored. It won't be like it is today. It will be an honored place in amongst the nations. But the Jews and the Jews will not control the whole world. That's not parts of it. And the world will not become slaves to the Jews. But everybody in the world will recognize the one God, and the oneness in the world will be clear, and the mishpat u'tzedakah, the righteousness of the world, will be clear, and the righteousness of Moshe and Shlomo, we're not here to the Rambam says לא כדי שישלטו על עם אחר, not to control other people, לא כדי שירדו על עכו"ם, not to go down on other nations, לא כדי שישתו יאכלו, not that we'll have better food or be more comfortable, no. But we won't, לא יהיה רעב, there won't be hunger in the world, ולא מלחמה, and there won't be wars in the world, and there won't be קנאה, there won't be jealousy, and there won't be tacharut, no competition. ומלאה הארץ דעה השם, and the whole world will have דעה Hashem, will know, will have this belief, will have this solid belief in the one God, and will be full of this light also, which the prophets talk about, which has been the light which has been put away since the creation, and the world will be filled of that light. So I think that is also a part of what we're longing for. At the same time, I want to warn also against the dangers of those who speak and say that we should already act today as if we are messianic times today. I mean, that is also dangerous. We have sects and group and so on who say we should not take a consideration today of the world we are living in today, because we're living in messianic times, and therefore we should not look at the realism of the world today, and that is like what the Rambam very much warns us against. That you have to, until the Messiah has come, and it's Mashiach Vada'i, not Cheskat Mashiach, that it's for sure the Mashiach has come, and he's shown us that he is the Mashiach. It's very dangerous. We've had that throughout the ages. We've had those who've claimed that they are Mashiach, and it's been very, very dangerous for the Jewish people. And it's brought us into tragedy. So this is also something we have to be very, very careful about. Only after we are in Messianic times, we have to get there, we have to believe in it, we have to act accordingly. And we have to believe, as Rav Meir said, that Mitzapim Yeshua in our lifetime. We have to act that it will happen in our lifetime, and we're getting closer and prepare ourselves, but not as if we're already living in messianic times, which is very, very dangerous.
I very much agree with your last words. It can't be that someone behaves violently or something like this, claiming that it's something which is messianic, since the messianic times are on the contrary. The messianic times are days of peace and all that. So yeah, that's very important. I agree very much.
So maybe you have some questions or something you would like to add. Some of all the people who are on this. Otherwise, we have many more things we can talk about, but
it's all clear.
Oh, there we go. So,
okay.
a quick question.
Yes.
Can we have
who is asking?
Benny Moilem?
Okay.
Where do you live?
Copenhagen, Denmark.
Okay.
Can we have peace as long as we're in war? We're in war with Hamas. That's my question.
We can't have peace when we are in war. No.
No, exactly. But we are still waiting, right?
But yes, but wars end at some time. I haven't heard about the war that doesn't end. The end, and then the norm. I will hear Rav Michael afterwards answering in his way, but you should always see what is the usual reality and what is needed. Even in our complicated history of the world, of the Jewish people, the usual times are not times of war. There have been a war of 100 years, of 7 years, of 30 years, yes, but wars are not the usual times. So now we have a war, and we have no choice, but it will end, and we should hope for times of peace, yes, not just now exactly in this.
The famous picture, as all of you know, which is also used even the United Nations, that from Isaiah, that the wolf grasses with the lamb, and the swords are melted to plowshares, which is the famous picture of the messianic peace. First of all, the Rambam says that all of these pictures from the prophets, including this picture, is symbolic. He doesn't say that you should take this literally, but it is symbol for something. It is symbol for what he says and what everybody agrees upon, that we should have peace. And he also says, and I think this is important also, because some of also Christian groups and other groups talk about, and also some Jewish groups talk about the war, the Armageddon, Milchemet Gog uMagog, and so on. He also says we don't know. We don't know of these. First of all, we don't know if the war has already been, and we don't know what we don't know. This is again. This is all part of those who make who want to say this is specific God. What is God's plan? So there are things like what we talked about, like the ingathering of the exile from all over the world. This is something which is so obvious, so clear as a sign of something which has happened now for the Jewish people, which hasn't been for so many years, Zionism as such, that it's impossible to say that this is not part of a divine plan. But so an overall divine plan, but otherwise to say specifically that this war means this and this occupation means this, and you can't do this, and you can't give up this, and you can't do this, and you can't do this, and you should occupy there, and you should have settlement there, and you should not this. This is putting ourselves instead of God, and we don't do that. What God's plan, when it will be messianic times, when Mashiach will come, then everything will be clear. And it says very clearly what will happen when Mashiach will come, and the divine presence will be all of that is very clear what that includes. Okay, but until that happens, it hasn't happened. So we need to take all the steps as we've talked about here in this shiur. But you can't say that the war in Gaza means this, and when it stops, then that means that. That's impossible to say. Yes, Yeta. You can't hear if you need to unmute yourself.
To be a human being, we can't control each other. Therefore, we have this Hamas, of course, of other reasons also. But we have to be the best, to be a human being to your neighbor. And now we have very bad time for European people. We are suffering much than ever, but Israel is always suffering for years in periods. So, and therefore it's have to be very hard, 2023, and will be in the future, maybe the next few years, for the Jewish people around the world. but we have to still going further on from, if you read the first book of Moses from the beginning. Yeah,
Okay.
in a way. Yeah.
Okay. But I think also, I
Thank
think
you.
it's important also to say thank you. We're going through a very, very difficult time, a very traumatic time, the whole people of Israel here. And I started with it also, Rav Meir said it. I think it's important also to listen to what Rav Meir said. First of all, we're not suffering the whole time here in Israel. Israel, the general feeling in Israel, we are in general one of the most happy countries in the world. Okay, the population here, one of the most happy populations in the world, and people want to be here in Israel. If you really talk about those who are suffering, look at the people in Gaza today. They're really suffering. I also for them hope that this will be very soon over, and that we can have peace, and that they will get rid of the leaders they have now, and that they can have some worthy leaders, so that we can come to another place. But they're suffering. We in Israel, we have hundreds of thousands who cannot return to their homes, and many people have gone through very, very traumatic time. The whole country is in mourning. But in general, Israel is not a country where we suffer to live. We're living all in all good lives here in Israel. It's important to say that. And in the scale of happiness in the world, I think the Nordic countries are very high up on the scale, but we're nearly up in the same place. We're not suffering the whole time. But it will be different when we come to Messianic times, with God's help, very, very soon. Things will turn around, and we will be able to concentrate on the study of Torah and other values, and things will turn around also for the place of Israel in the world. Will be totally turned around from what it is today. Rav Meir.
Yes. Now I would like to finish off. One of the things that belong to the Messianic times is us being a light for the world, and this we hope for, and that's a much more harmony. Not sufferings and so on. We have something to give. We should have something to give to the world, and being a light to the world, to teaching and showing a righteous way. So we have in Yirtzeh Hashem much in front of us. But I think for the time being, we should finish now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But if someone wants to say something, please.
Yeah. In the scale of suffering, use another word. Okay. How feel the Israel people with this Gaza? I know my family, when I spoke with them, they say also they don't not worry, but they don't think about it every hour. But for me and for the Danes, the Jewish Danes, we are thinking really different in a way. There is a different. There must be something suffering, or use another word. Which word? Please
Yes,
put on to give it more mild, and soft expression.
No, but you're right when you're talking about during this war, you're right. I just said that it's not the whole time. We're not in war the whole time. And you're absolutely right. Now the people of Israel is going through a suffering, a trauma, and is in pain, as in mourning. Absolutely. Some people more feel it stronger, some people less, depending where your children are, where you are.
Yeah, okay,
What
yeah.
some people have no homes. We have hundreds of thousands who still are not at home. They can't live in the south. They can't live in the north.
Yeah.
It's and we have hostages, which is a scar on our hearts. This is a collective responsibility for our whole people. It's not and we have lots of people who have died. It's such a big number of our civilians and of our young soldiers who have a whole life in front of them and have been and have died or been murdered the 7th of October. So I don't want I think we shouldn't continue this now,
Yeah.
but we have a lot to pray for and we need the feeling of urgency, both the urgency that enough is enough when it comes to the war, and enough is enough when we want Mashiach, and we want messianic times. I hope that we could transmit, Rav Meir especially, but also I could transmit to you some of the feeling of the urgency which we feel that we need for Kadosh Baruch Hu to have mercy on us and send us Mashiach already. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for listening and Mirza
Thank
Hashem.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
Bye-bye.
you.
very much.
Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm the one that's sharing. How do I do the recording? Do I save it somehow, or is it automatically saved? Do we know that?
I think it's automatically saved, but
I'll press stop. See you. Thank
okay,
you very
press
much.
stop. Yes.
Have a good night.
Good
Bye.
night. Thank you.